Hello friends, Dan here again. I just started a few minutes ago working on this sweet little painting that I started last night in my painting class. You can watch, about 40 minutes of my painting class right here on this channel. I recorded the beginning of the class so you can get some idea of what my classes feel like, taste like, look like. And but I didn't get very far in the showing the painting process. So this is how far I got last night. Now, all I've done today is I did a glaze. If you've watched me before, you know this very well. A very thin glaze with liquid and large brushes like this, couple of brushes. Brown here. I darkened up the lower part. Can you see the whole canvas? Pretty much, yep. I darkened this part. I did brown here and blue here. And instantly the painting began to look better. Why? The way I like to say it, forgive me, I know it's crazy, but I just say things in sometimes a strange way so that you can remember them. And that is, ain't a color made that don't look better with something else on top of it. So that's why it looks better, because transparent colors always are more interesting than opaque colors. So I had opaque colors on here, and then I did a glaze over everything. So now everything is a transparent color, primarily transparent color. But here I am coming back again with more opaque paint. So then you could ask me, well, if transparent colors are always more interesting than opaque colors, then why do you come back with opaque on top, as a last layer, as a last step? And the answer is because the interestingness, or let's give interestingness a score from 1 to 10. Okay, so transparent is a score of 6 over opaque. That is, transparent colors rate a 6, opaque colors rate a 4. So you increase the interest of your painting by using transparent colors. But variety scores an 8. In other words, variety of stroke, variety of mark, variety of paint is even more important and more interesting than the value, the bump you get by switching from opaque to acrylic. I hope that made sense. That was just about as clear as mud, I'm afraid, but I'll put it this way. I come back and do opaque colors because the combination of opacity and transparent colors gives me variety, more variety than if everything was covered with a glaze. So that's why I do it. And of course, I'm also adding little bits of detail to the painting with this last layer of opaque. Now, and I wish I could have shown you how this sky was painted. In a word, the sky is painted layer by layer by layer. What you're looking at in the sky right now is at least 5 different layers of treatment. So there's a complexity in a good way, a happy complexity to the colors here. And as you see now, I'm applying opaque paint very thinly, so the result is translucent color. And translucent is also interesting, generally speaking, more interesting than opaque color. And some of you might say, well, that's your opinion. Well, I don't have time to defend the whole thing right now. If you get my book, I've already written this chapter, and I've talked about it elsewhere. You might say, well, that's your opinion that transparent are more interesting than opaque. And let me say then, when I say they're more interesting or really richer, or really the better term is more complex, that's what I mean. It's not a matter of opinion. transparent colors in the physics realm are way more complex. In fact, in my book, I'm going to say a transparent color is a 2x BRT, no, BTR color, and an opaque color is a 1B color. 1B versus 2BTR. I'm not even going to tell you what BTR stands for. You're going to have to wait till the book comes out, or you're going to have to ask me a question. Okay? And it's not like an opinion. I'm talking in the physics realm. Transparent colors are much more complex than opaque colors. Okay, forgive me for teasing you, taunting you, but that's going to have to do for now. I really like the messy looseness of those cottages the way they are right now, but I have to do just a little bit to them or they appear too unfinished. Especially there's some confusion in this cottage right here. What exactly is going on with that roof line and with that window? And the answer is I don't know. So I better figure out what's going on with that and fix it here in just a minute. By the way, let me, in case you didn't see, here's the photograph that I'm working from. Oh, and I've lost the chimney. My goodness. Chimney really important right there. So let me work to get that chimney back in. Maybe even 2 chimneys, eh? Maybe. Yeah, one right here as well. Okay. Now, in painting in transparent layers, of course, transparent colors, you can't just whip out, your chimney brick color paint and slap a chimney on there, because it will look slack. It won't fit with the rest of the painting. So it's always at least a 2-step process. You begin by smudging in a dark transparent color and then coming back on top of it with something opaque. So where did I want to put that chimney? I guess here, where there's already a hint of something happening in the sky. And likewise over here. Anything on this house? Sure, a little bit right there. Okay. Now, while I've got this dark stuff mixed up, I want to do a couple things. One is flesh out possibly these figures, these people who are standing on the beach, walking on the beach far away. Little hint of a sidewalk there. That's nice. You know, don't you, when an artist says something like that, like, ooh, that's nice, that the artist is not bragging. The artist is surprised. Like, oh, that turned out good. How'd that happen? Who did that? That is very, very, very true. Any artist that brags when those things happen is just, I don't know, got issues. Not that it's my job to go around telling you who has issues. How about a stair? How about some stairs right here? Let's just do it, and then if we don't like it, we'll wipe it out. Yeah, maybe. Very strange painting things that are quite far away, like these cottages. You can't get tight and have hard edges, or it just won't read they won't read as far away anymore. So, yeah, I'm going to continue with this concept of a power line or telephone pole or something here. Yeah, that's nice. Once again, when an artist says, yeah, that's nice, it's not bragging. It's like, wow, that actually turned out kind of nice. Wow, who did that? I think all you real artists, you know what I'm talking about. You know what I mean by that. Okay, now let's do a few hints of windows, or should I do, well, let's look at one of these. These are, by the way, are very famous cottages in Nags Head, North Carolina. There's about a dozen of them, so it's not, they're very particular cottages, and I suppose many, North Carolina natives would recognize them. They're famous 19th century, Civil War, after the Civil War era cottages. They're all have a distinct weathered gray unpainted look that sets them apart. That's part of what makes them recognizable. And fairly simple architecture. And to look at them, you can just break out in a sweat looking at them, thinking how hot these boxes would have been for their owners and their residents for the first 100 years of their existence. No air conditioning, so the windows are built for optimal wind blowing through and so on. Kind of fun, kind of good old grit. They have a nice grittiness about them, and it's certainly part of what I'm trying to capture in this painting. Okay, now my sea oats here, the grass, is not bad, but needs a little more. So I'm darkening, right? So don't you? Anytime you want to darken some area of your painting, you do it with transparent paint. That doesn't mean you run out and buy a brand of paint that's transparent. No, it just means you put enough liquid on your brushes so that you're painting more with medium. I find that beginners often really misunderstand, or old-fashioned traditional oil painters really misunderstand the proper use of mediums. The word would be media in any other area of human endeavor, but I think in art we should really call them mediums, not media. Anyway, you English majors, just sit down, shush. I know what you're thinking. I'm not going to go there with you. They are mediums. Old-fashioned, when I say old-fashioned, traditional oil painters misunderstand the use of mediums because in the olden days, linseed oil was just about the only medium that you used as an oil painter. If you wanted something to go thin, use medium, and you use linseed oil, and you use just little tiny bits of it. You just added little tiny bits of linseed oil to your paint to thin the consistency of the paint a little bit. And a lot of painters, if that's your exposure, that's what you still do. So you think that you add tiny bits of this. Well, you do if you're painting opaque. You add tiny bits of this. But if you want to glaze, you add tons of this. In fact, when I'm doing the glaze, it's about 80% medium and 10 or 20%. Never mind. Hush. I don't want to hear about the math. 80 plus 10 equals 90. What's the other 10%, Mr. Dan? Shut up. When you paint a glaze, I think that you're painting with 80 or 90% medium and 20 or 10% paint, as the case may be. People beginners sometimes also complain to me like, wow, I didn't realize oil painting is so expensive. Um, that people say that a lot. I'm always a little bit mystified because I think, come on, compare it to bowling, compare it to golf, my goodness, compare it to snow skiing, water skiing, compare it to any other hobby. I think it's a fraction of the cost. But I guess they expected it to be free. Maybe because it's my job, and every time I buy paint supplies, it gets reported to Uncle Sam as a business expense. Maybe that's why I just don't get it. But I just don't get it. I don't think painting is terribly expensive as a hobby. But why this came up. I don't spend a ton. Here, let me move you around just for a second, okay? Here's my paint drawer in my studio, okay? 8 inches deep, no, 5 inches deep. Where is it? 5 inches deep, 5 inches wide, and 2 feet long, full of paint. And then, of course, I've got similar sets of paint caches of paint in my van. Anyway, so I buy a lot of paint, but that's not what breaks the bank. It's this stuff. It's the liquid that I feel like is expensive. Yes, so that's the point I was getting to. Oil painting's not expensive, but buying the medium is kind of expensive. So if you want to complain about the right thing. Oil paint is not that expensive, but if you use a lot of medium, to me it feels like that does get kind of expensive. Looking at that now, Is it too uniform? Is it too, again, soldiers in a row? Buddly, 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 buddly. Dum, da-dum, 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 da-dum. Is it too even? Is it too even? Yeah, it is. So if I just simply diminish this clump of sand and turn it into grass. There we go. There we go. Much better, much better. Yeah, I still like that little bit up there, but now it's not even. Okay? Of course, I'm not finished. Anytime you do dark, transparent. Anytime you do dark, it's transparent dark. But the dark is just the wind-up. It's just the apogee. It's just the get ready, the follow-through. The downbeat is coming back with light, the way I did in the sky, coming back with light, opaque. Anytime you want to get dark, transparent. Want to get light, opaque. Dark with transparent, light with opaque. I maybe heard me say this before. Not everybody in the 20th century understood or remembered that, which is unfortunate, because it's how all the great painters, every great painter in the world before 1890 knew this. Sargent, Bouguereau, Rembrandt, Van Eyck, you get dark with transparent colors and light with opaque. Otherwise, you get mud. And again, forgive me for advertising stuff all the time, but if you want to watch my video, Avoiding Mud, where I describe and demonstrate quite clearly what mud is. It's the misuse of opacity. Artists of the 20th century lost the magic of transparency because of the realization, the movement, the mantra that the canvas is flat. Thank you. Oh, good grief! Its name just went on my head. I had it a minute ago. It'll come back. A name of an art critic I was going to name. It'll come back to me. So in the 20th century, we had to learn, and I do believe we did have to learn. We really did have to learn this lesson. The lesson, coming from centuries and centuries, where artists were cameras, the human race had to be re-educated to understand that human beings are no longer cameras. Therefore, we're not creating pictures, we're creating paintings. And again, that's one of the huge learning curves for most student painters, is getting away from the picture mindset and into the painting mindset. You're not painting a picture. At least you shouldn't be. Too many people are, but you shouldn't be. You'll never get out of toddlerhood until you come to a deep realization that what you're painting is paintings, not pictures. I like to mispronounce the word.